well, after I go through these fights all the time, I like to give you the Billy C TV ratings. And here they are. First, I'm going to do the broadcast from NBC. It was their fifth broadcast that we've rated. And as far as the quality in the main event, I scored it an excellent, a 5. Okay, although it was an ugly fight, basically, I rated a 5 because of several reasons. First, Porter versus Broner was a great matchup on paper. It put two young fighters against each other, which has become the exception in boxing rather than the norm. It used to be the norm, but now it's the exception. So I had to give it, I was impressed with that. The second reason is because of the significance of this fight. This fight had some significance. The winner, we have to assume, is going to get a bigger and better opportunity. And the third reason was the fight was close. Despite the ugliness and despite the final scorecards, it was close. I was on the edge of my seat. I was wondering what was happening. How's the judges looking at what I'm seeing? Is Porter going to get frustrated? Is Broner going to counterpunch him? Is somebody going to do something? It was a fight that kept me on the edge of my seat. Listen, at the end of the day, I rated this fight excellent, a 5. As far as the undercard is concerned, I gave it a 3, a satisfactory. I don't think I can really score this fight any other way. Spence stopped an extremely late sub in Phil LaGreco. It's kind of what he had to do and he should have done. And to be honest, LaGreco was clearly not in shape. I couldn't, take anything away from Spence because he only did what he had to do, fight the guy in front of him. So I wasn't going to give him anything below a satisfactory, but on the same hand, I couldn't give him anything above. At the end of the day, it wasn't anything terrible. It wasn't anything great. It was a 3, a satisfactory. As far as the quality of the crowd and the excitement from the crowd, I scored a 5, a 5. It was excellent. The MGM was packed. People were clearly into this card. There's no doubt about it. They were vocal. It was easy to rate this one an excellent, which was a 5. Now, the next one, the official's performance. I rate the official's performance a 0. Garbage. This is actually the first 0 that I've rated for the official's performance all year with our Boxing on TV ratings. Tony Weeks, who normally does a good job, was nothing less than garbage. He must have warned Broner. I can't even know how many times. I said 10 times earlier. I don't know how many times he officially warned him, but he warned him a lot. There was many dirty tactics going on during this fight, and all of the warnings, despite all of the dirty tactics, only resulted in 1 point deduction, and that didn't come until the 11th round. I give Porter all the credit in the world for keeping his cool, despite Broner with his consistent elbows. He was pushing off with his gloves all night long. He was leaning and pushing on him as he came in, headlocking him. And you can't forget that punch over the back of his head. It might have been funny to watch and everything else, but you know what? That was an immediate point deduction. It should have been an immediate point deduction. Listen, I think that over this course of this fight, that the referee, Tony Weeks, should have deducted at least 3 points from Adrian Broner. I thought it was terrible. Listen, this was the worst performance that I recall Tony Weeks doing. I'm sorry. I scored it a 0. It was a piss-poor performance. It was garbage. And like I said earlier, you can't give Porter all the credit. I mean, he didn't even know how to cut the ring off, but still, garbage performance from Tony Weeks. As far as the commentator performance, I scored a very good. Now, I'm not sure what to think. Talk about overkill. All right, you got actually a great team in Marv Albert, Sugar Ray Leonard, BJ Flores. Okay, those 3 guys are great. Okay, they don't step on each other's toes. BJ Flores has evolved into one of the best ringside analysts in the sport, And, Sugar Ray is Sugar Ray. I mean, Sugar Ray's always been solid. He knows his stuff. Then you sprinkle in Al Michaels. I mean, come on. I mean, this guy is good too. But the reason why I couldn't possibly give him an excellent, which I probably should have, was Daniel Jacobs, man. Daniel Jacobs is terrible. He's terrible. I'd rather see B-Hop back there. I really would. Daniel Jacobs just doesn't look comfortable holding a mic. He just doesn't look comfortable when the camera's on him. And quite frankly, he can't even speak clearly. He ruined an excellent rating for the commentator performance. I mean, come on, man. I don't know what the loyalty is with this kid. He just looks totally out of place. I didn't want to score it less than a 4. I would like to have, but overall, I scored a 4, which is a satisfactory. Now, when you average it all up, when you total it up, it comes to 17. You average it up, comes out to be a 3.40 grade, which is satisfactory. And quite honestly, the only reason why it scored lower than a very good or even an excellent overall was because of Tony Weeks' job. The next fight I'm going to rate is the one on Fox, which was our 7th fight that we did on Fox that we're rating. The main event, give it an excellent. I was in an excellent mood. Scored it a 5. It was one of the easiest main events I ever had to rate. This was hands down excitement in every which way. On paper, the significance of the fights itself, the fight, how it turned out, and you can't help but love Hasim Nadam's heart and really his boxing skill, because either he was on the ground or he was boxing pretty proficiently. David Lemieux showed that he was in shape. He throws bombs. He keeps his head, and he listens to his corner. By the 3rd round, I couldn't help but think Lemieux versus Triple G. That's all I could think. Bottom line, I scored it a 5, which is an excellent. As far as the co-main event, I give it a satisfactory. The Jerry Belmonte's fight was a nice fight to watch, no doubt about that. I just can't stand fights that are 100% made for one fighter's advantage. I understand that's the business, trust me, but I can't stand it, And Gene was just too big for Belmonte's. He did land his punches flushly. They just had no effect. When you factor in that, maybe you could argue and say it was very good, but don't forget about the other fight on that card. Luis Ortiz fighting the Pillsbury Doughboy. It lasted 2 minutes and 38 seconds. I couldn't score this more than a 3, which was a satisfactory. As far as the crowd excitement, listen, if you've never been to a live event in Montreal, all I could tell you is go, because there's no crowd like a Montreal crowd, especially when you have a card full of local fighters like it was on Saturday night. Easy. I scored a 5. It was excellent. As far as the officials go, it was an okay job around. I couldn't complain about anything. I was actually worried about Marlon Wright in the Lemieux fight. I thought that he would surely stop the fight if Nadam went down. He didn't. I give him credit for that. I scored a satisfactory of 3. As far as the the commentators, the production of this event, sound-wise, wasn't that good. I couldn't hear the commentators that well. They weren't able to quiet the crowd noise. So what I did hear from the commentators seemed to be on point. They were good. They weren't, pulling a Ronaldo. They weren't over-calling a fight. They let us watch the fight. So I rated it as satisfactory only because I couldn't hear them that much because of the production quality. But I think overall, when I could hear them, they did a good job. So I gave them a satisfactory, which is a 3. When you add that up, it comes out to be 19, which averages out to 3.80, which is an overall rating of very good for the Fox Sports broadcast on Saturday. On Sunday, for the CBS broadcast, the main event, I rated a very good, which is a 4. Rances Barthélemy showed he's clearly the real deal by dominating a former world champion and a clearly tough out in Antonio DeMarco in this fight. I know DeMarco is at the end of his career, but as a result, He's contemplating retirement. Listen, I still had to give Bartholomew a rating of 4, which was very good. As far as the undercard, I scored excellent, a 5. I love watching the Mexican, Sammy Vasquez, and Wale Matosu did a really good job making this fight exciting. I actually give Lucky Boy Omatosu a lot of credit for showing how tough he really is. If you didn't like this fight, you don't like boxing. I rated this a 5, which is excellent. As far as the crowd, I scored a very good. It was a good-sized crowd, and they were into it on a Sunday afternoon, and it was Father's Day, no doubt. So I think they deserve a 4 rating. I think it just came up slightly short of a 5, which was excellent. I scored a 4, which is very good. As far as the officials, I give it a 3, satisfactory. Nothing bad, nothing great. It's satisfactory. Same goes with the broadcast team. It was a typical Premier Boxing Championship series overkill. I'm not going to kill him too much. I'm not going to get into it. There's just, there's just too much smoke and mirrors for the PBC series. It's starting to get old. You see all those backdrops. I know what he's doing. I know the plan. I got it. But I scored it a 3. It's satisfactory. When I add it all up, it comes out to be a 19. It averages out to 3.80. When you round it off, it rounds off to a total of a very good rating. Now, all of the ratings and year-to-date ratings, I should say, are up on BillyCBoxing.com under the section that says TV ratings. Imagine that. And you could check that out and go back and replay any of the breakdowns if you so desire to. So anyway, hey, listen.